Picture this. You are dragging a 2-ton block of limestone across the desert, ropes cut into your palms. 40 other people are straining beside you, chanting to stay in rhythm, sweating under a sun that does not care about your deadline. Somewhere behind you, a river of workers stretches for a mile, hauling the next block and the next and the next. Now here's the part that should not add up. These are the same people who will build pyramids that still stand 5,000 years later. Precision down to the centimeter, astronomy woven into stone, and yet for this task, arguably the single most useful invention in human history is nowhere in sight. No wheel. On paper, that makes no sense. You would think the wheel is obvious. A round thing rolls. A kid figures that out by accident with a dropped orange. So why did it take our species roughly 200,000 years to actually use one? And why, when it finally showed up, did huge parts of the world just skip it entirely? This is not a simple answer. It is a rabbit hole about friction, priorities, and the strange gap between having an idea and actually needing it. And by the end, you will look at every wheel around you completely differently. Let's start with the twist nobody tells you. The wheel's first job was not moving anything at all. Around 3,500 BCE in the river valleys of ancient Sumer, in what is now Iraq, potters started spinning flat wooden discs to shape clay faster and more evenly. That is the pottery wheel. It just sits there and spins. No axle carrying weight, no cart rattling down a road. For centuries, humanity had the wheel and used it purely to make bowls. Imagine inventing the smartphone and only ever using it as a paperweight. That is roughly where things stood. Then someone had the actual insight. Not round things roll, but round things can carry a load if you put an axle through the middle and let two of them turn together. That leap shows up in the archaeological record around 3,400 BCE, and one of the clearest clues is a small clay pot found in Bronicease, Poland. It is decorated with a scratched drawing of a four-wheeled wagon. Archaeologist David Anthony, who has spent decades tracing the spread of early wheeled vehicles across Europe and Central Asia, points to this pot as one of the earliest snapshots we have of the wheel doing real work, hauling goods instead of just shaping them. Around the same window, in the marshes near modern Ljubljana in Slovenia, researchers pulled an actual wooden wheel and axle out of the mud, preserved by waterlogged soil for over 5,000 years. Using tree ring dating, scientists placed it at roughly 3,130 BCE, making it, as far as we know, the oldest wheel on the planet you could still put your hand on. So the timeline is not wheel invented, world changes overnight. It is decades, maybe centuries, of a genuinely useful shape sitting around as a craft tool before anyone bolts it to a cart. Think about that gap. An entire civilization had the exact physical object sitting on a potter's bench, and it still took generations for someone to connect. This spins nicely with, this could carry my grain to market. Good ideas do not travel in straight lines. They stall, they wait, they get repurposed by accident. Here's where the story gets its first real gut punch, because this is where Hollywood has been lying to you. Every pyramid movie shows Egyptian workers rolling giant stones on wheeled carts, or at least on wooden wheels of some kind. It looks efficient. It looks obvious. It is also almost certainly wrong. Ancient Egypt built the pyramids at Giza between roughly 2560 and 2540 BCE, which is centuries after wheels existed elsewhere, and Egypt still was not using wheeled vehicles for heavy construction. Instead, tomb paintings and archaeological evidence show workers dragging massive stone blocks on wooden sledges. That sounds primitive until you hear what a team led by physicist Daniel Bohn at the University of Amsterdam discovered in 2014. They tested sledges on Egyptian sand and found that dry sand piles up in front of the sledge, creating a wall of resistance that eats your effort alive. But wet the sand just right, and it stiffens the surface, cuts friction dramatically, and the same sledge slides with far less muscle. There's even a tomb painting from around 1900 BCE, showing a worker pouring water directly in front of a sledge, which for years people assumed was ceremonial. It was not decoration. It was physics. The Egyptians were not behind. They had found a version of the problem that a wheel would not have solved any better on sand anyway, since wheels bog down in loose, granular ground almost as badly as a flat sledge does. Sometimes the primitive method is just the correct engineering answer for the terrain you actually have. Here's the strange sequel to that sledge story, though. Egypt did not reject the wheel forever. It just waited for the right reason to want one, and that reason turned out to be war. Around 1650 BCE, a group called the Hyksos moved into the Nile Delta and brought something the Egyptians had never really faced before, the light two-wheeled war chariot, pulled by horses instead of oxen. It was fast, it was maneuverable, and on an open battlefield, it was terrifying in a way that no sledge ever needed to be. Within a couple of centuries, Egypt had not only adopted the chariot, it had refined it, building lighter spoked wheels instead of heavy solid discs to shave off weight and gain speed. Suddenly, the same civilization that spent 6 centuries perfectly happy dragging stones on wet sand was investing serious engineering effort into shaving ounces off a wheel rim. That tells you something important. The wheel did not spread because it was obviously the best tool in every situation. It spread the moment it solved a problem people actually cared enough about to redesign their entire way of fighting for. Necessity is not just the mother of invention, apparently, it is also the mother of adoption. So if the wheel eventually spreads through Europe and the Middle East, you would assume it just marches around the globe from there. It does not. And this is the twist that should genuinely mess with your sense of how invention works. Across the entire pre-Columbian Americas, from the Aztec and Maya empires down through South America, nobody built wheeled carts, wheeled plows, or wheeled transport of any kind, despite having complex engineering, calendars, and monumental architecture that rival anything in the Old World. And it is not because the idea never occurred to them. Archaeologists have found small ceramic toys, animal figures on axles with wheels in Mesoamerican sites, meaning someone absolutely understood the concept of rolling. Historian Richard Bulliet, who wrote an entire book tracing the wheel's uneven global path, argues the missing piece was not imagination, it was infrastructure and animals. A wheeled cart is only better than carrying things on your back if you have a large, strong, domesticated animal to pull it and reasonably flat, cleared paths for it to roll on. The Americas had no horses, no oxen, no camels suited to hauling carts at scale, since most large native mammals suitable for domestication had already gone extinct at the end of the last ice age. Add mountainous terrain and dense jungle, and a wheel becomes a neat toy with no practical upgrade over a human porter or a llama with a pack on its back. The wheel was never really about the wheel. It was about whether your entire environment was set up to reward using one. And which brings us to today, and to you, sitting wherever you are sitting right now. You rolled here. Your chair has wheels, or your car does, or the delivery truck that brought your last package did. Wheels are so total, so invisible, that you have probably never once thought about the fact that an office chair and a fighter jet's landing gear are running the same 5,000-year-old trick, a circle spinning around an axle to turn effort into motion. It is one of the only major inventions in history that essentially never got replaced, only refined. And the real story is not that some genius one day looked at a rolling log and shouted, "Eureka!" It is that an idea can exist for centuries as a curiosity, a toy, a potter's tool, and go absolutely nowhere until the environment around it, the animals, the roads, the terrain, the actual problem people needed solved, finally lines up to make it matter. So next time you are pulling a 2-ton feeling of a Monday behind you, dragging yourself through a task that just will not roll easily, remember, sometimes the tool is not the missing piece. The conditions around it are.